welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Happy Friday, everyone, and Mac and Nacha. I'm glad to be back, and I look forward to seeing everyone support questions and comments during the next conversation and information. Yeah, information conversation that we shall present for you. On a
I love information conversations.
yeah, information conversations are the best ones to have. Definitely. How are you, Mac?
Oh, I'm dandy, I suppose. I can't complain much. I'm going to share out.
I'm swell and you're dandy.
Was
Uh,
swell. If everyone could, shameless help us plug. Yeah, if you guys can help us share out the link on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're at, that would be awesome. Well, I'm doing it real quick, and then we're gonna get started. We're gonna first start on the most current timeline for the Uvalde um, school shooting. Here, just a minute.
See and have you. We have Mrs. Beach Price. I just had to hello, how are you? I hope you are well. Um, I we have quite a few things that we're going to be covering all on the same topic. So if at any time you guys have something to add, I will be looking down and checking because it's that sounds so cliche, it takes a village, but it really does. It doesn't matter if you actually have a family member or know somebody involved in the over 20 mass shootings we've had in the last, what was it, 9 days. It's all of us. All of us are responsible for how we can make this better. So there's
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and we're going to be going over a lot of responsibility tonight in this topic. So please bear with us, and please let us know what you think, because this can be a wider conversation. Again, yeah, if you don't mind, please like, subscribe, share the link out to this specific show right now that we're having, because we'd love to have more people joining in on the conversation, because it's really important, and I really want to see as many good faith ideas to try to get a good solution to this
Easy to lose hope.
this epidemic that we have.
It's harder to not lose hope. We're going to need everyone to do the harder thing.
So, oh, and Beach Price is here. Yeah, she deserves mention. She was the only people who was in our original
yes,
very first show, along with Nacha, who couldn't bear watching us try to do this on our own. So thank you so much.
It was more of a comedy show without satire.
Yeah. Laugh at us, not with us.
We were trying.
All right. Again, everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's go ahead and get on with the show. So, if you are not aware, I'm sorry. You may want to take breaks at certain parts of this one, this episode, because I feel like it's going to be heavy. I can't remember if it was Tuesday. It doesn't say. I think it was last Tuesday.
It was Tuesday, yeah.
It's just because this is an updated timeline. Why don't they just say the day? Doesn't matter. Okay. In the hours and days following the fatal shooting of 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas on May 24th. There it is. Authorities gave shifting and at times contradictory information of what happened and how they responded. I should right away here, I apologize, let you know that I'm reading from AP tonight. So I will put that in the LEAH admin chat just so Nacha can put that in the description box below. And I picked AP specifically tonight because they're the ones who broke the story that things went shit after things went to shit.
Right.
So going on from there,
Mm.
the investigation of the massacre is ongoing, but much is already known about the nearly 2 hours that passed between when authorities say Salvador Ramos shot his grandmother in the face, I might add, and she is still alive as far as I know.
Mhm.
And when police radio traffic indicated that the 18-year-old gunman was dead and the siege was over. So again, nearly 2 hours that passed from when he fired the first shot at his home,
Wow.
and an officer fired the last shot to end it. Timeline. Sometime after 11 a.m., Ramos shoots his grandmother in the face, according to Texas Public Safety Director Steve McCraw. Gilbert Gallegos,
Mm.
82, lives across the street from Ramos and his grandmother. He heard the shot as he was in the yard. He runs to the front and sees Ramos speed away in the pickup truck, and Ramos's grandmother coming toward him, pleading for help, covered in blood. She says, "Berto, this is what he did. He shot me." According to Gallegos, whose wife calls the police and reported the shooting at 11:27 a.m. This point, it is worth noting that uh, Ramos, he, from what we know, his grandma lived within 4 minutes, around about a mile from the school. So when his wife called 911, I think now is an appropriate time to mention they probably should have alerted the school right away.
Yeah.
Sound the tornado sirens, like in hindsight 2020, and probably without hindsight.
I know that here in this area, if there is anything going on, let's say a donut shop, just for bringing something up as a robbery or something, the local school goes on shutdown.
Yeah, you locked
So
that. And that didn't happen, obviously. So that said, no faults right now, just that didn't happen. And we know that. At 11:27 a.m., a video shows a teacher whom authorities have not yet publicly identified propping open a door, an exterior door of the school, McCraw said. At 11:28, Ramos crashes the pickup into a drainage ditch behind the school. I'm not going to keep saying McCraw said. Two men at a nearby funeral home hear the crash and run out to see what happened.
Mhm.
They see Ramos. I'm just going to keep switching between the two. Jump out of the
just say
passenger
the killer. Don't even say his fucking name. Sorry about my language. Yeah, he gets no glorification.
Right. Well, he's dead, so good for him. Side carrying.
Ugh.
I'm sorry. He came out of the passenger side carrying an AR-15 style rifle and a bag full of ammunition. I heard 2 at the time. I don't know if that's changed, but it says "and" as singular. The men run, and the suspect fires at them but doesn't hit them. One of the men falls, but both make it back to the funeral home, which is extra sad. A funeral home, shooting at
Yeah.
people at a funeral home, already having a bad day, I'm sure, or just have a terrible job. The teacher who propped open the door, meanwhile, runs inside to grab the phone so she can call 911, and she didn't shut the fucking door.
Actually, new video shows that she did shut the door.
Okay.
It's been 24 hours since this news. She went outside, propped the door open while she was out, did what she did, came back in and shut the door. These doors are supposed to lock automatically and did not lock.
Okay.
They don't know why it didn't lock. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was the original.
And I'm sorry. So she can call 911 and report the crash, but as she comes back out while on the phone, she realizes Ramos has a gun. According to the Department of Public Safety spokesman Travis C. I'm gonna say C. She removes the rock that had propped open the door and closes it behind her, but the door does not lock.
Mhm.
All right, so thank you, Christy.
Yeah.
There before I did.
Well, it's changed hourly, sometimes in 15 minutes. So
Yeah, you have to stay on it. At 11:30, 911 receives the call saying there was a crash and a man with a gun at the school. At 11:31, Ramos begins shooting at the school from the school parking lot as police cars begin to arrive at the funeral home. Ramos then makes his way around the school building, probably just looking for an entry. The school district police officer who was working that day wasn't on campus, which they said he was at first.
Oh, yes, they did.
And this around this time wasn't on the campus around this time, so he was supposed to be there, maybe. I don't know. Contrary to previous reports, McCraw said on May 27th, so that was like 5 days ago, but that was 3 days after the shooting. They said that he wasn't there. The officer drives to the officer. I don't know which is the officer. That's why I'm confused.
Right.
I'm sorry. The officer drives to the school immediately, in quotations, after getting. I like how that's in quotations. That's how it always should be when you're getting official information, because sometimes the official information is the best you can get, but often just because it's the best you can get at the time doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah, at the time, right.
Yeah, that's why you don't listen to the CIA. Immediately after getting the 911 call, and approaches someone at the back of the school who he thought was the gunman. I think this was one of the teachers. As the officer sped toward the man who turned out to be a teacher. McCraw said the officer drove right by the suspect who was hunkered behind a vehicle. They must have seen that on video then, in hindsight. That's all still at 11:31.
Right.
At 11:32, Ramos fires multiple shots at the school and then makes his way toward the unlocked door, officials said. At 11:33, 5 minutes after the crash, after crashing the pickup, Ramos enters the school and begins shooting into two adjoining classrooms, 111 and 112, McCraw said. He fires more than 100 rounds. This, I can say, as of I think at least the 27th, they didn't know how many rounds he shot 6 days ago.
Right.
But they knew for sure it was well over 100.
Right. Well, he went in with twice as much as someone who is on the front lines of war leaves to go out on those front lines with.
Yeah.
Just unacceptable.
We're in a tactical vest, mostly probably just to hold shit. He
Hmm.
didn't have any protective gear on, which was something that they thought. Um, okay, 2 minutes later, 11:35, three city police officers enter the school through the same door that Ramos used and are later followed by four other officers, McCall said, putting a total of seven inside the building. Two officers received grazing wounds from the perpetrator, the shooter. Um, okay, this point is probably good to point out that these three city police officers, it says followed by four other officers, so it didn't say city police officers at that point. I don't know if they were all from the same place, but this local police um, police department, from what I heard, and you can correct me if you know better, Christy, I think only has 6 or 7 police officers.
Yeah, it is a small one. The
Right.
original story with the cop, when it was first coming out, a cop showed up and was, interchanging shots with this killer. And then come to find out that cop was 40 minutes away when he got the call. That's how little cops are there. He wasn't even there. He did drive there. It was chaotic and unorganized.
Yeah.
Like you
Uh,
said, it is the best information at the time. In most situations, I 100% agree. With this one, I have a real hard time that it was the best information. I think it was, well, tell them what they need to hear.
yeah. Um, okay, so the grazing wounds, which I haven't seen. I'd like to see a picture of those. I would. At 11:37 a.m., again 2 minutes later,
Mhm.
um, gunfire continues with 16 rounds being shot in total. McCraw said it's unclear who fired the shots.
Right.
Um, so we have a gap here from 37 to 51. Um, a police sergeant and other law enforcement begin to arrive. So we hear 16 shots and nothing happens, and the people show up at 11:51. At 12:03, a female, age unknown, calls 911 and whispers that she's in the classroom. 112, McCraw said. The call lasts 1 minute and 23 seconds. Um, I'm gonna take a guess and say this is Mia, and this is important to remember for later when we get into
Okay.
more details. I think it's Mia, and it's one of the little girls in the
Okay.
classroom with her teacher's phone. It's Garcia's phone because she was already dead
Right.
or shot at least.
Right.
At 12:03, officers continue to enter the building with as many as 19 officers in the hallway near the room where uh, Ramos is hold. Um, I think that's a typo. I don't know. That's at 12:03 again. At 12:06, Anne Marie Espinoza, a spokeswoman for Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District, posts posts on the district's Facebook page. All campuses are under lockdown status.
Right.
This is at 12:06.
Right.
The
Right.
100 rounds were let off at 11:33 a.m. 11:33 a.m. Shots were fired. At 11:37, 16 more shots were fired by someone. And at 12:06, all parents get this message on the Facebook page, as I said. Over a half an hour later, Uvalde CISD parents, please know at this time all campuses are under a lockdown status due to gunshots in the area. The students and staff are safe in the buildings. The buildings are secure and a lockdown status. Your cooperation is needed at this time by not visiting the campus. As soon as the lockdown status is lifted, you will be notified. Thank you for your cooperation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
buddy. I just
I'm over halfway done. I'm gonna try to speed it up for our sake. 12:10, 4 minutes later, a female unknown the female um, who was unknown in the classroom, who called 911 at 12:03, calls again and says there are multiple people dead. Okay, so yeah, the age is unknown, but this is one of the little girls. The two teachers were already I can say that with like 99.5% certainty.
right.
Because I've already heard a report from the parents with the girl next to him.
Right.
Anyways,
The teachers did jump in front of the kids and take a lot of bullets.
at least one of them, from what I heard. I don't know what you've heard. She calls again at 12:13, and then again at 12:16, when she says that there are 8 to 9 students alive.
Mm.
We didn't. That's the first time I've heard that part. That wasn't reported. And I don't know how she knew that, because if this is the girl that I'm thinking it was, she was playing dead at the time. 12, 10. Okay, yeah, this is another 12:10 timestamp. The first group of deputy U.S. Marshals from Del Rio arrive from nearly 70 miles away to assist the various other law enforcement officers already on the scene, according to the Marshal Service.
Right.
12:15, U.S. Border Patrol tactical team arrives with shields.
Yeah.
12:19, another girl in room 111 calls 911 and ends the call when a fellow student tells her to hang up.
That's the call that if you guys are interested, there are parents who are using their phone to record forward, and one of the calls is coming through the speakers of the cop car or their speaker here, and you can hear the call of the little girl saying, I've been shot, and who are you? I'm a kid, I've been shot. And when the cops, and it's, you don't see the parents in the video, it's literally a video of that. When the cops realize these parents can hear this child from inside as they're doing nothing, they turn them down. That was their answer to that.
You said there's video of that?
There is, there is, yes. Today I will look for it as soon as I'm done talking, but I'm probably going to use the words on YouTube. Child calls from Uvalde, phone captures it or something. It is available. I've listened to it multiple times. Well, let me check while you're talking.
Yeah, if you can put it in the chat, and also toward in our messenger. I haven't checked that one out yet. 2 minutes later, again, 12:21. There shouldn't be this many updates. Something should have been done like at least 40 minutes ago at this point in time. At least 30. Fuck. Ramos fires his gun again, and officers believe he's at one of that. Fires his gun again, and officers believe he's at one of the door of one of the adjoining classrooms. Police move down the hallway. Like they don't.
Right.
The, okay, I have to say it now because I don't want to try and back up and read through this again. They said they got grazing wounds. How do
Mm-hmm.
you not know where that's from? You got shot and you don't know what, like, were all the doors open? Did the
Right.
one with bullet holes not give you a hint? Was
Mm.
one door? I know it wasn't open because they had to get a janitor to unlock the fucking door. How did you not know? Yeah, he's between one of the two doors. Maybe they didn't know the layout of the school. Maybe that's why they're putting it in there, because they're more ignorant than we thought. But fuck it. Moving on. Um, Same minute, 12:21. 3 shots can be heard during a 911 call. Same one. Around this time, police are stuck in the hallway because both classroom doors are locked, and they must seek keys from a school employee. At 12:36, a child calls 911 for 21 seconds. Around this time, a girl calls 911 and is told to stay on the line and to stay very quiet. The girl says he shot the door. The girl urges, I'm sorry, that was at 12:36 when she called. Um, this is at 12:43. This is another fucking 7 minutes later. It says the girl urged, so they must have got another one. Um, okay, no, they stayed on the line, I guess. This is, it's kind of fucky, like the way it reads. I'm sorry. The girl urges the 911 dispatcher to please send police now. Those police, I would like to remind you at this point in time. Um, Hold on, let me fucking check.
She also tells the person on the phone, I can hear them. Tell them to come in.
Yeah, 11:35 a.m. I said 3 city police officers enter the school at the same door Ramos used. 11:35 at um, 12:43. So over an hour and 7 minutes later. Is that right? I say 36. Did I math it? Sorry, it's important to me. 35. Okay, so 1 extra minute. 8 hour and 8 minutes later, she says, please send police now. Maybe that's why they didn't go in. They didn't get a direct call for the police yet. No one asked for help. At 12:46, the girl says she can hear the police next door. 47, she says, or she asks 911 to please send the police now. At 12:50, officers open the doors with keys from a school employee, enter the classroom, kill Ramos. Shots can be heard over the 911 call. Officers can be heard moving children out of the room.
Mm.
At 12:58, law enforcement radio chatter says Ramos has been killed and the siege is over. And Victor Escalon, uh, regional director from Texas Department of Public Safety, said, okay. Before we so I have something to add to the last fucking 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes because it's not in the police report, but we have 1 or 2 witnesses saying that before the cops came in, and I think it was towards the end of this, the cops asked, is there anyone I don't know if they said is anyone alive in there, or they yelled and said, please say help, before they got the fucking door open.
Yeah.
And I heard a little girl first, and then I heard today that it was a little boy. One of the kids yelled help, and the gunman walked over and shot them too.
Right.
And
Well, they were told speak out
I know
by the yeah, that
that's what I'm saying.
alone, it like yeah, it just needs to be resaid. Like it, the whole thing is horrific from beginning to end. But that little tiny, why wouldn't you know that? Why wouldn't you know that? You're telling them to be quiet.
I refuse to grant them that. I refuse to grant them that. I think they did know. I think they were scared. I think they were hoping to not hear
That
anything, so
nobody
they
would
could,
answer.
right, because then that means maybe they don't need to rush as much, right? Because everyone's already dead. It's been an hour, right? And then they get to
Makes
listen
my
to someone.
stomach sick.
Yeah, because they're fucking kids. They're not smart enough to not trust the police when they've already learned they're alone for an hour.
Right.
And
Mm. Oh, yeah.
I had decided when I heard of the shooting, I'm not covering it.
I know.
I'm like,
I know.
I just covered one last week.
And then the whole situation with the first responders made it so that it was like, well,
Couldn't ignore it. Had my attention and couldn't ignore it. It's a whole different kind of tragedy when the police officers aided and abetted the shooter.
yeah, when parents are willing to go in without a flak jacket, aka bulletproof, without a weapon, without a shield, without any training, with just their hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, because someone has to go in. Yeah, it's horrific for us Americans who are used to this. I can only imagine people looking in from other countries like what happened, and then what happened after. The timeline just really paints this, picture of the reality of the situation. We'll never understand what it feels like to be a little child dealing with this. However, this you know going through the times, the inaction is minute after minute after minute after minute. And any of you who have ever been in anything, whether it's a fight in middle school, a fight in high school, an accident, something where there's trauma involved, it feels like it's forever. 10 minutes in a bank robbery feels like 45 minutes. Getting stuck somewhere without any help for 5 minutes feels like an hour. These little children probably felt hours and hours went by.
Yeah. And I mean, we should finish by filling in the timeline, the things we know. We don't know exactly when these other parts happened, but we know that they did. First off, there were some parent. There was like 2 hours earlier. There was an award ceremony going on, so some of the parents were still nearby.
Right.
And lived nearby, and they heard the gunshots from the parking lot. So they came running right away. And then also one of the great grandparents uh, of one of the grandchildren, the little girls who died in the classroom. He was there on the scene, and he noticed later when he went home and watched the video, because what he saw was the cops running away. Um, and trying to go get like tactical gear on or take cover, being scared. And he said, I noticed later when I went home and watched the TV is that the news showed the police running, but they didn't show them running away. They just made them look like they were doing shit. Um, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And the grandfather was something else. If you just look up great grandfather Uvalde school shooting on YouTube, it's quite sad video, but it's his grief's worth paying attention to, as everyone's. There was a woman who drove 40 minutes away. Um, got there, was she she was cursing at the police, and they said something about her backing out. She's like, "Well, then you better arrest me because I'm going to go in there." So one of the police arrested her, detained her, handcuffed her, and I think I heard that she got like she was released, like someone else unhandcuffed her, and then she jumped a fence and snuck into the school,
Yep.
got her kids out and got back out before the cops did anything really.
I did
Besides,
add the link to that whole story. It is in the chat. Yes. Yeah.
thank you. Also, the reason
It's
the
unbelievable.
have given why they didn't go in is one, because they needed tactical gear. Two, it's because they were setting up a perimeter. How many people got in and out to save their own children? Like some of the police who have kids in the school, they went in, got their own.
They sure did.
That woman who drove 40 minutes away got detained and then snuck into the fucking school past the perimeter, which was so good and necessary. And they pulled out tasers. I heard reports that they actually did tase some of the parents to keep them the fuck back for trying to do the officers' jobs.
Threatening arrest, bullying. Yes.
Bullying.
The bystanders who were there, not the parents. So this isn't something coming from a parent who went through it and sees it completely one way. Not that I don't agree with them. This is just from bystanders, said what they saw with their own eyes were the police and the first responders of whatever force they were there representing caring more and being more upset about the parents wanting them to do their job than the shooter in the school. And even if that's not black and white, which even if it's not, the fact that it is seen that way by the public is unacceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I do want to add, you said perimeter. I do want to add the Uvalde cop. They actually very recently went through an active shooter training. And in that active shooter training, one of the things that were talked about were perimeters, that perimeters are very important in a lot of situations. In a active shooter situation, the first and foremost thing is to stop the killing. Perimeters can come and they're important, but you need to stop the killing first.
Since Columbine.
Right. It's been the law. I'm just saying that it's, even if they didn't know that it's been the law for this long, they actually just had a course on it. So, but they had to set up that perimeter. Yeah, I can't imagine being a cop, and I can't. It takes a special type of person who runs toward the danger instead of away from it. But that being said, they signed their name. They signed up for it. They chose it. And if at some point, even though you chose it, there's nothing wrong or shameful to say, this isn't for me. I now have a family, or I don't feel this way anymore. And to get out, because it's more dangerous for those people to stay in, for the people they're supposed to represent and take care of.
I would
Yeah.
like to um, point out at this. I mean, the best time to say it is while we're on this part of the topic is if anyone knows how to do like t-shirt designs, I have a good one for you. If you can, you know that little greater than sign, on the keyboard.
Right.
If anyone wants to do a good aesthetically pleasing blue lives matter flag greater than uh, lives of school children, if there's a good way to do that, I will buy that from you and I will wear it, and we'll put it in the LEAH shop.
GOP, guns over people.
Yeah, guns over people. So that would be great. Because
I like it.
that's
Thomas
that should,
Bear, he's our community's, well, he just loves doing that stuff. And not only does he love it, you guys, he's good at it. So
like if you could put like a little kid at a school desk and put Uvalde underneath it
mm,
at the bus stand. I don't want the greater than. I want the more offensive one, so they have to ask me a question.
right, a conversation starter.
Oh wait, do you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a sarcastic shirt.
Mm.
I don't wear it to feel good. I wear it to feel bad. Thank you. Um,
No, I got it.
so that
Mm.
so that
Smart people in our chat.
that mother showed up. The parents were trying to unite and um, decide what they could do to get past the police. Um, every single one of those police officers, border patrol who waited more than 5 minutes, or um, every single one of them, um, every first responder, I think, should be held accountable for like aiding and abetting. I think. Um,
Right.
I
There
think
should definitely be a very thorough investigation done by independent group. It should not have anything to do with Uvalde or even Texas. Just, a completely independent. Yes.
yeah, we I I've been waiting. I've said it a few times locally. Um, when Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd with those two other officers holding him down, face down, and the other officer holding back the crowd. What, 2 years ago now? And I said then, and I taught in my martial arts class, and I said here, Leah, and everyone else I've talked to,
Right.
that it's not just Derek Chauvin who killed that person, right? I mean, he did. He's prime suspect number one. He's in jail for it, and he should be. Um, but the other officers, which luckily are also in prison, last I checked,
I agree with that.
they were all responsible,
Right.
because when you take that oath as a police officer, it doesn't matter what your commanding officer says if he's going to
Right.
make you commit it too. I said, and I don't sugarcoat it at all, they should have pulled their gun on him because
No, I agree.
he was committing a murder. Like,
Right.
get off now, you're under arrest. And
Mhm.
I also said about the bystanders, I'm like, I'm really sad that none of them tried to jump the police and get shot until they stopped. Like, you got to get them off his neck, because everyone knew it was wrong. They all told him to stop. Given no one wants to get shot by the police, I hold the police much more accountable, and only slightly the bystanders. But I can't say, like, if I was witnessing something like that I wouldn't do something. Like, you have to. Like, otherwise you're aiding and abetting. And I'm glad that these parents tried, right? They tried to get through, and that they were held back by the police, the people who were supposed to be protecting these kids were holding the parents back from protecting their children. And look, to be honest, on the other side of things, 100 rounds went off. What, at 11:33? Most of those kids who died were probably already dead. But you can only say most, because Mia, the little girl who called the first time, I'm pretty sure, she was trying to help keep her friends who were just shot quiet. And they were dying next to her when the shooter just prayed and sprayed the classroom.
Right. No.
He didn't. So the teacher had jumped ahead, took a lot of the bullets. I don't know how fast anyone died, but I do know that Mia wasn't hit, and when the gunman walked into the connected classroom and started shooting the other class, she realized she could move, and she ran for her teacher's phone, and she tried to keep her classmates quiet. And as they were dying, she realized she needed to cover herself in her friend's blood so she could lay down and play dead. That would have happened either way, right? Because so soon. But the mental trauma of playing dead on top of her friends for over an hour while trying to call for help, which was just beyond the door. All of that could have been avoided. I don't know how long her friend was breathing as she listened to her stop breathing. That probably could have been avoided. This is the hard part. This is the hard part to listen to. This is the hard part to acknowledge. But this is the part that our politicians need to listen to.
They need to also hear that same little girl is so terrified she will not talk to men, any men. She freaks out. She is a 10-year-old. Her parents and family say she hasn't carried a baby blankie since she was a toddler. She can't move without it. She needs to have it around her. If her dog barks, she starts trying to hide, saying, he's here, he's here. I just can't even imagine.
Yeah,
she's not sleeping and she's not eating. It's not over for her.
She had an appointment earlier that too, and her parents had just dropped her back off at school. And as soon as either her mom or dad got home from dropping her off, is when they heard about the shooting.
Right.
It didn't take. So they really regretted that. This is her second close call for life, because she also had she had another issue. I can't remember what it was. A health.
Was leukemia? Wasn't it leukemia? Right.
It might have been leukemia. So the reason we're going through all of this is not just to torture ourselves or our viewers. It is because this is important work, because not even just that the public deserves to know terrible things. It is the public deserves to know how the police responded, and this is how policies are made. This is our politicians' job.
Things can't fix unless we know it's broken.
Right. And we can't fix anything because Congress went to vacation.
Yeah. Man, oh man, I can't, all of this already, I can't even fathom being a parent whose child survived this or they lost their child, and then the leaders are going on break. I understand it was scheduled. I get that. However, put yourself in your constituents' shoes. I just, there's no excuse for that. I understand our break was scheduled for now. Lawmaker can say. And I guess many of my fellow lawmakers are going to go on this break. However, I am not. I will push it back. Who says they can't still have their break? It's guaranteed to them. Push it back. Have it in a month. Have it in 2 months. It's not the time, is what any of them could have said. And then gone to their constituents. They don't need to go to Uvalde. And go to their very own constituents and say, let's have, you don't have to even call it a town hall. What are some of your concerns? And then when you get all of them writing in their concerns, the top 5 that everyone's the most concerned about, then you have your town hall to talk about those things. That's called democracy.
Yeah, this works out for anarchists who want to have arguments that the government is ineffectual at best and harmful at worst. But Republicans who want to ignore this and like make the government look weak, also not good for them because they have a government job. They say they support the troops, and that's comes from taxes and government. And, it's really stupid move on our 2 major parties to not fucking do anything. It's not just disgraceful; it's really like tactically not smart. It's really, really dumb.
Right.
I don't know if I have any more to share with the timeline. To help me, the 911 calls coming from inside the classroom, which brave kids trying to make a phone call quietly during an active shooting. I can't imagine what I can hardly imagine the trauma that they're going to go through from now on, trying to get to a semblance of normal. I know that Mia, for one, just little things in conversation, just like,
Right. Or also the dad, the first responder. That story,
You said the dad?
there's a dad who was a first responder when it was finally time to go in. And they have confirmation that he's been taken out. It's time to get in there and get the kids out. And he's wheeling kids out in stretchers. And this one little girl, the girl we just talked about, comes out and she is covered in blood. But she's being walked out, and he doesn't, where she hurt, what she did have bullet fragments in her shoulder, and he couldn't figure out, nothing's wrong with her. And she tells him, it's my friend's blood, and it was my best friend. And he wants to, comfort her, and he's like, well, what was her name? It was his daughter.
It was his
That's how he found out. There are so many personal stories that should not only be heard and talked about and be made part of the history of this. It's not politicizing it. These are humans going through human emotions of a devastating thing that happened to them. And for you to say that's politicizing it, I don't like. Shut up. If you don't have anything nice to say, go over there and shut up. If it's not part of the fixing it or listening to them, just being for them, for hearing what they have to say and not having an opinion of it, just hearing it. And then when they're done, doing something about it.
Because we have to move
Yes.
We are going to get to solutions, but I do want to point out that I have a pretty vivid imagination, and you want to close your mind's eye when you really think about it, right? When you really think about what those kids went through and what they saw and what they had to just continue to see of someone that they love and know and appreciate and see every day, because those pictures that they see and those memorials now when they go to say their goodbyes, like again, me, um, they don't just see those normal happy faces anymore. They see whatever they saw, and you can picture bad things sometimes, and sometimes you can't. But um, that's the worst kind of trauma. That's the worst kind of. It's it's similar to if you listen to Vietnam vets whose friends stepped on booby traps, pieces of them here, pieces of them there, um, kind of stuff. And for a 10-year-old's mind, it's pretty sad. And you you add on top of that, parents say call 911 when there's an emergency. You you expect them to experience something traumatic like a house fire, or I guess a shooting or anything. You call 911 and they come to help incredibly fast, almost superhero fast. That's why
Mm,
blue lives fucking matter.
mm, mm.
um and adds to the trauma. You it's not real life. It doesn't happen like that, I guess, not always. um and for anyone to bring up um they were scared, they need to be armed better, don't make an argument
Right,
to
right.
arm fucking cowards. That seems like a stupid idea. It doesn't seem justified. You can make
Mm,
some kind of sad argument with it, and it could still be valid. I'll grant you that, but it's
mhm,
ridiculous. You don't. They didn't pick a coward in Steve
mm,
Rogers to be Captain America, because
mm.
that just makes him more cowardice, right? If you give a scared man a gun
Right.
and say go protect
What do you
people,
think he's gonna do? A
what do you
cornered
think?
animal is the most dangerous. It's
Yeah,
just ridiculous.
they were all
And to
scared
what makes
anyways.
someone brave is not being scared. It's acknowledging the situation, being fucking scared, but doing it anyway. That's what makes someone brave.
Especially when you stand for it.
Right?
An extra
Right.
gold star. Didn't.
You're supposed to serve and protect. You wear that badge. You actually do have authority over the civilians of this country. You have authority over them. And with that power comes great responsibility. And you didn't hold up your end of the bargain. So,
Yeah, and this this is a trade. There's a social contract,
ooh,
and it might not follow with the law in all places, but you get that authority because when you don't act, when you take first responder training, if you see an accident and you fucking drive by it,
oh yeah, you're in trouble.
you're in fucking trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, like you could never be the first responder again.
Yeah, when you gain authority, that means you are responsible.
It sure is.
All of these first responders deserve jail time and to be sued, because every single one of those families who went through the trauma of fucking waiting,
Hmm.
and then also the ones who waited for the worst news of their life, deserve to be compensated. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why, right? Because monetary gain doesn't help it, right? Except it does. I lied. It does. Because they need time off of work.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
need
me too.
off of work initially, and then they need time off of work again when they go back to work and realize why they were off work. It's you're jumping hurdles for a while. Maybe not the rest of your life, people do get over things or learn how to deal with them. I
Right.
apologize.
But how do you go about work or caring about, you're supposed to leave your troubles at the door when you go into the work. Are you kidding me right now? And any compensation is not going to come soon enough. And there's no amount of money that would ever replace a human being, especially someone's child.
The only
However,
one who doesn't deserve to be taught.
Right.
Deserve to be sued is the first responder who learned his daughter's name from that other little girl because he's already paid a price. And I don't mean to be cruel to him, but just as an example, and I don't think I can back down from it. I mean, he has some authority there, not enough to override the police, except on moral grounds. He should have been. I mean, I would have hopped in that ambulance and fucking rammed through the door or something. You have to cause a ruckus when people are being ineffectual, because there are kids in there who were bleeding out still.
Mm-hmm. Many of them could have been saved. Knowing that as someone who it's not their children, is unconscionable. It makes, I can't not cry just thinking about the little babies, thinking any minute they're going to be saved. But as a parent, now knowing your child was fearing for their life and in pain, and I just can't. We were shared with the Amazing Human Beach Prize, and this comes from the source Occupy Democrats. The 11-year-old, known as Maya Cirillo, the brave little girl who survived the Uvalde shooting by covering herself in her friend's blood, will testify before Congress next week of a hearing on gun violence. So I really hope that the comment section of that is not a dumpster fire, because I'm sure she's just a year or two away from reading those things. And I really hope the adult humans act right.
Yeah, good on her. That's amazing. And
it's going to be a lot. Remember, she's terrified to talk. So I don't know if they'll do it in a closed session. I really don't. I'm sure they'll cater to her. I'm sure they will, and they're not going to do anything that's going to further traumatize her, hopefully. But it is so important that the world, especially our lawmakers, hear her vivid recount.
Yeah. This is what I was waiting to hear. Sadly, this is. I don't mean this in an insensitive way, but I will say it in a mildly shitty way. This is the part that I was excited about, is hearing what happened in the classroom, because that means someone survived, and that opinion is the one that matters the most. So I was really excited to hear it, hoping that I could hear at least one. So what do we do, Christy? You said you had a few things to share.
I do. I just, I love history, and I knew how this one was just going to effing hurt. It's just, it's nauseating. It's, ugh. There have been 21 mass shootings since Uvalde in this country. Just think about that. Think about that. It is unacceptable. I wanted to read a sentence to you guys, a sentence that about 26 to 40%, depending on how you ask them, of the citizens in this country swear that they live their life by. They even wear shirts, their attire say the Second Amendment on it. They're all about the Second Amendment and how the government's going to take their Second Amendment rights. And I shouldn't have done that. That was biased. But my dad actually does talk like that. So not that he is a leftist. He just actually does talk like that. You've heard of Trey Crowder, the liberal redneck. Okay, so it does happen. The Second Amendment is a very simple sentence. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The very first sentence, a well-regulated. We are always taking away what? Regulations. So that's all I wanted. Just sometimes it's good to read that sentence.
A well-regulated militia was understood after it was written for the next 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll reiterate, because it's not my interpretation, it's the interpretation of the next 200 years after it was written, is that well-regulated militia is like a state army,
Mm-hmm.
like National Guardish kind of stuff. Not individuals. It was absolutely not individuals. So when people talk about their Second Amendment right, they usually don't understand it. They're using it out of context.
Right.
Concept wasn't given until what, the 50s, 70s? When was it, Christy?
Right. I will go through the timelines, and I know the regulated militia meant, we were spread out in the beginning, so it meant all of the men would have their firearm, and then every so often, it wasn't like once a year, there was no internet. Once every 5 years or so, they would have training, and this would be for the sole purpose of, if the leadership of the state or the leadership of this country said, we need our men, they would be a well-regulated militia. They could come together with their own guns and protect the state or the country. We will start with, let's see here. This is fun to always read. The racist origins of gun control. Before the Civil War ended, state slave codes, that's if you look up state slave codes, you will get actual information about the history, of this country. The slave codes prohibited slaves from owning guns. After President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, and after the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution abolishing slavery was adopted and the Civil War ended in 1865, states persisted in prohibiting Black Americans, now free men at this point, from owning guns under laws renamed Black Codes. They did so on the basis that Blacks were not citizens and thus did not have the same rights, including the right to keep and bear arms, protected in the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, as whites were. This view was specifically articulated by the United States Supreme Court in its infamous 1857 decision, Dred Scott versus Stanford. And it was to uphold slavery. So we have that fun little, historical is what it is situation. And here's a couple more. In 1860, nearly 60 years after the first enslaved African arrived in the colonies, the Virginia General Assembly passed one of the first gun control laws in the colonies. This new law made it illegal for any African-descended Black American to carry a weapon or weapon-like object, period. Since the term weapon-like object is not specific, it left the door open for white men and women to punish Black Americans for possessing any objects that clearly had no intention to harm. For example, African Americans could not carry a cane despite potentially needing it to walk properly because they were scared. And the history doesn't stop there. It's let's see, the Civil War, you know, decided the northern boys. This is all fun stuff. Okay, the NRA started an actual rifle association. They actually were not benevolent or anything. It was just the National Rifle Association. It was a marksman club all the way back in 1871. So this is just 10 years after these laws that prevented all Black people from not even being able to carry a cane because it's a weapon-like object. So in 1871, when a couple of Northern Army veterans from the Civil War decided that Northern boys ought to learn to shoot as well as their Southern counterparts. Another reminder, you guys, let's see. So go ahead.
Sorry. I wanted to point out real quick.
Mhm.
No weapon-like objects.
Yep,
I
no
did-
weapons-like objects.
Yeah, I wanted to point out because it made me think of it. Remember, there are places in the world that some haves treat have-nots like this still, and
Oh, yes.
you
India
can't.
has a massive caste
Yeah.
situation.
Here's another one. Good one for you. You can't send wheelchairs to Gaza because the
Yes, yes.
Israeli government is too afraid of Palestinians making weapons out of wheelchairs.
But Palestinians as a people have the most amputations than any other people per capita on this planet because their legs are shot and they're not allowed to have hospital equipment and the surgeons aren't allowed to have the equipment needed to do modern surgeries. So pretty much they're going back in time. We just have to take it off. But you can't have wheelchairs. You can't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those people like this.
Okay. With the NRA, after 4 presidents were shot, people began to talk about maybe putting some restrictions on guns. For example, no longer allowing manufacturers to hand out free guns at all presidential public appearances. You guys, Google presidents handing out free guns. It was a real thing. So they were thinking, you know, even the NRA, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. And back then, the NRA actually worked with the government to make sure guns were only used for things like hunting, sharpshooting, and little clubs where even fathers and sons could go and do father and son things. Yes, there weren't father and daughter or mother and daughter. However, we're meeting them where they were. Also, throughout the 1920s and the 30s now. So it was 1870. Now we're in the 1920s and the 1930s. I want to caveat, think about this. 1920s, 1930s. That's right where the Great Depression happens. Socialists, we had a socialist party. We had a communist party. We had all these political parties. We even had Eugene Debs at the head of that socialist party who had so much support and had the audacity to say the words, he doesn't support the war, World War I, and doesn't think that American citizens and mothers should be sending their sons off to die. He was arrested for insurrection and wasn't allowed to run for president. So think about that. He would have, by all the stats, definitely been, if not close to, he would have won that presidential election. We'll never know. So throughout the 1920s and 1930s, just to paint that picture, the NRA helped to draft state and federal laws enacting measures like waiting periods, concealed carry permits, and banning all sales to people convicted or indicted for violent crimes. So if you'd been indicted and you're waiting, you can't have one. They helped the state come up with these laws. I also want to say, then we move to the 60s, the 1960s. We have the assassinations of JFK, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. Those led to renewed support for more gun restrictions. And in 1968, Congress passed the Gun Control Act. The law placed substantial restrictions on the purchase of guns based on mental illness, drug addiction, and age. Now, those haven't aged well, and I would definitely want some things to be changed. However, they saw a problem and they said, let's do something. This kind of legislation would be fucking impossible today. And there were some NRA members, they found the 1968 Gun Control Act overly restrictive and organized, of course. They also got into organizing lobbyists at this time, and they lobbied to block it from including a national gun registry. They were definitely against that. The NRA ultimately backed the law, though. Even Charlton Heston, you know, the guy that said, "You'll get my guns when you take it from my cold, dead hands," that he even supported it. So I want to say the NRA support for gun control also grew from racism, as we know. They started, the whole reason that law was put in there was to round up slaves that got away and to shut down slave rebellions. That's a huge part of the reason this was even a thing. In the 1960s, besides what I just explained, the Black Panthers began defending themselves in their own communities against police brutality. They would invoke the Second Amendment and patrol their Black neighborhoods while armed, not causing any problems, just making sure the police who overly patrolled these areas didn't keep doing and getting away with the pulling over just to beat someone up and plant something on him, harass people. They said, no one's going to protect us. We're going to have to do it. When police would stop a Black person in these areas, Black Panthers would stand to the side and start shouting out legal advice, which was so important. Most of these people had never even had a lawyer unless it was a public pretender who didn't give a gosh darn. It was mostly related to the situation at hand, the advice they would give them, but they also had some incredible insights on many things. And the state of California responded. They responded by passing the Mulford Act, MULFORD, Mulford Act. The Mulford Act, which banned the carrying of firearms in public without a license. Essentially, racist white California Republicans were so gosh darn scared and afraid to let Black people carry guns, they were willing to lose their own rights to carry guns. And as the then governor, Ronald Reagan, put it, there is these were his words. You can watch him say them. There is absolutely no reason why out on the street today, civilians should be carrying a loaded weapon. Reagan's fear of armed Black people was then vindicated when he was shot by, was it a Black Panther? Was it a Black person? No, of course it wasn't. It was a crazy white person who shot him. And I want to say
didn't he come from Toledo or Cleveland?
Toledo, Cleveland. I would have to look up where the shooter came from.
You're talking Martin Luther King, right?
Who got shot? No, I've been talking about Reagan.
I thought I heard you say King.
Yeah, like a while ago, he was one of the people that got shot. That was why. Now, yeah, we're after that. So, the Black Panthers came after MLK was shot, and the Black Panthers walking around carry guns scared Reagan and the like so much that they changed the law and were even willing to give up their own rights to carry a gun if it meant that Black people couldn't carry a gun. And he didn't even mention semi-automatic or anything like that. It was a loaded gun. You cannot carry a loaded gun in public. That was the new law. But by the 70s, the 1970s, so now we're 100 years since the beginning of the story. The NRA, much like, well, kind of like most of these institutions do over time, they grow big britches and very egotistical. They kind of weed out the people who aren't going to be hardliners because, you know, if you don't agree wholeheartedly with what the leader at the time says, you're not really part of it, and it radicalizes itself. When the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, so the and explosives, shot a long-time NRA member. And this NRA member was suspected of stockpiling illegal weapons. Some NRA members at the time became more militant and doubled down on gun rights because now they had a martyr. That's why it's so important to not use violence, because you go against yourself, you know. And after they started, go ahead.
People are always,
You're breaking up. I'm sure no one could hear you.
people are always looking for a martyr for their cause.
Yes, they are looking for a martyr, and definitely do not want to give anyone on the far right a martyr. They already have enough power. They began to, the organization began to form lobbying arms. Lobbying arms because what was happening to our Constitution at the time? Oh, the end of the 70s? Well, money is allowed in politics. Black money is now allowed in politics. Lobbying obviously is the next conclusion. It was led by Texas lawyer Harlan Carter. Carter felt the NRA wasn't political enough and led a dissident group. And this dissident group, they all wore orange, so they're easy to look up. They actually were a fringe corner of the NRA that had to do with actually writing the legislation and the laws. Terrifying stuff. They wore these orange hunting caps to overthrow the leadership at the 1977 NRA convention. They were trying to do a coup. It was an event known as the Revolt at Cincinnati, and it was revolting, of course. That's just like a whole bunch of kids fighting. Harlan Carter also helped shape the current NRA that we see now. He had marching orders. It wasn't just a organization that everybody came to and talked about ideas. It was now top down, and we're starting to see the very, all this authoritarian and right-wing fringe coming to its logical conclusion. And his new marching orders had been in effect basically ever since the 1977 coup d'etat in the NRA. They have been opposed to all forms of gun control in Washington and in state capitals, and have, it seems, unlimited funds to make sure this happens. They have they aggressively lobby for gun owners' rights. And the changes in campaign financing laws that I had just mentioned, Citizens United and the like, allowed the NRA to begin directly funneling money into the pockets of the lawmakers who would make sure that no gun legislation or regulation could ever be signed into law. And the NRA also led a pro-gun PR blitz to rewrite history. By the 1980s, a group of lawyers, many affiliated with the NRA and other gun rights groups, published a flood of studies in legal journals, none of them peer-reviewed, of course, arguing that when the founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment about a well-regulated militia, what they really meant was anybody with a gun. It's true that the NRA has weakened. I don't want to negate that. It has weakened. It has kind of broken apart from the inside out. But, however, and also, the gun rights activists that were there into those really far right fringes have tinier groups, and they have the tightest grip on not just the GOP, but all of the GOP and the conservative Democrats as well. And that grip is tighter than ever, even with the NRA falling apart. In fact, the decline of the NRA has left an opening for these smaller pro-gun groups. And if you want to hear about and listen to a funny take of these smaller gun groups, I know it's a horrible topic and it's fun to have someone who could take it with a little bit of humor. Samantha Bee talks about these smaller gun groups and their extremely extremist views. There are quite a few, and these smaller groups that I told you, they not only lobby, but they organize organizations that file lawsuits challenging state gun laws. They control those laws. They mobilize members in asphalt groups, not like we have grassroots organizations. These are called asphalt organizations because they don't just spontaneously start. They are paid for and organized on the ground. They unseat politicians, even if they're on the right. They don't care, who aren't extreme enough. We've had many conservatives that are current lawmakers who have been primaried from the right because of these small groups. One in particular, in 2018, the group called the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners campaigned against Cole Wist, W-I-S-T, a pro-gun Colorado Republican. Yes, of course, from the right. And he was farther to the right than Mike Pence. He got primaried from the right to allow, he got primaried because he sponsored a bill, listen to this, to allow guns to be taken away temporarily from people who pose an immediate threat to themselves or others. Not permanently, just right now until we make sure you're okay. And because of that, and there was the bare minimum, he got pushed out. That other effer won. And you guys, the majority, if you want to think the NRA has diminished, yes, it has, but the ideology, that radicalism, not only hasn't, it's worse. A majority of right now Americans have supported stricter gun laws for decades, and yet we're still here. Go ahead, Mac. I just wanted to end at a period.
No, you're fine. I understand what you're saying, but to those who are not in Christy and I's brain right now, it is the NRA has diminished financially,
Right.
ideologically, even though 90% of its membership, roughly 90%, wants some kind of like common sense in quotations gun laws or red flag laws, right? But they still look for their ratings of politicians. Like the NRA is the biggest in name. They paved the way, as Christy just gave you examples of. That's why they're declining financially, because they're not doing what their membership wants, but still that's
right. Well, when that coup happened, those new far right fringe leaders had a mission, and that mission was to happen at all costs. Even if the NRA fell apart, it wasn't even about that anymore. And they've not only achieved it, they've outdone themselves on this. They've just outdone themselves. I do want to say that the Republican Party's entire identity when it comes to the Second Amendment, and a few of the Democrats, is, there's no other way to say it, a lie. It's a lie. It's not factual. It's not history. And so, yes, it is infuriating. However, I did want to end with just a little history of how we got to things like Uvalde. And the NRA wasn't inherently bad. It just wasn't until it was. And a big part of that, besides bad people, of course, was this legislation that allowed, not only allowed, but it sets it up so that you have to participate in order to play any of these games. And to play these games, participation is millions. And regular people like these children at Uvalde aren't a thought in that legislation. Yeah, aren't you guys glad you came to spend your Friday with us? I love you guys. It's just very important. It really, really is important. Doc, fearsome.
I love Christy's rants because we always learn a lot when she's like prepared and ready to go. So now that all set, and what the NRA has paved the way for, and the GOP, what is your solution, Christy?
It's actually going to sound cliche.
Okay.
More democracy. More democracy. More democracy. A corporation isn't a person and doesn't get a vote. However, what they want surpasses, and I'm not saying this is a correct number, but we've seen numbers as high as 91 and 92% of this country that wants comprehensive gun reform. We've seen that 91 to 92% of citizens that want a universal background check. Just that. If democracy, by definition, was a democracy, that would have passed a long time ago. And it's not. We're having the same arguments. Our feckless fucking president just this past week wants to hand this off to Mitch McConnell of all people and said that he respects him and his opinion. Nothing is going to happen. Doesn't matter what I want to happen. I don't know what has to happen. Do conservatives have to have a gunman come to their house and actually slaughter people in front of them for them to say, oh, this is not really a good idea? I feel helpless. I can't. It's frustrating. More democracy. That's what I want.
It does sound kind of mediocre. But no, you're right. That's something that would help, right? We had more direct democracy.
Right.
I think that would help. Something else that would help. Damn it. I'm not
gun buyback. I definitely am 100% for gun buybacks.
Yeah. You know what? I have here. I'll see. Yeah.
Hear ye. Matt has a statement.
I do. Well, no, I have a graph. Thank you.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. Downloads. There it is. There. Most of you have seen this, but I want to get it on the live screen or live stream on the live stream.
I know words. United States. Yes.
So
mass
Josh,
shooting.
look at
Also another statement, the number one reason for child deaths, that's 17 and under, the number one in this country for the first time is gun violence. Shootings. Shootings kill more children in this country than anything else. Anything else. Unacceptable. When people from other countries say, well, how did it get like this?
Okay, so in case you can't read, this lineup here says mass shooters, this guns.
1966.
Had the most amount of guns and the most amount of mass shooters.
Yes. To 2012, right? 1966 to 2012. Okay.
Yeah. So Russia, China, and India are our closest competition.
Right. And they're in the bottom of the left graph.
And India has more people in a smaller amount of space.
Yes, they do.
And they have more reason to want to fucking kill people around because they ain't got no space. Everyone's in the fucking bubble, right? Being a little facetious and funny, but more guns equal more gun deaths. That is not that the graph I am showing and I am speaking on because that's not correlation. When it's that big of a gap, not correlation. That's absolutely causation. And it could be a little off, right? Or it could give you a bigger idea than it should, but it's still tremendous.
Right. A couple points either way isn't going to change how far ahead we are from everyone else. And I do, if I leave you with nothing else, this whole we need more guns. We need to train more people and put more guns. I do want to say this. If more guns were the answer, America would be the safest nation on the planet. That was said by Beto O'Rourke. And it's so simplistic and so profound.
If America has the best country,
right up there, god dang,
and the best people,
300 million,
then we would have the most good guys, right? So if we have the most good guys with guns, this graph couldn't be true. This is the reality. So it makes that argument null and void. I mean, no, it actually makes that argument.
It does. What about the argument about mental health? Because listen, I'm like, holy cow, I agree with the conservative. Yes, 100% with you. Let's have universal mental health for everyone. And that's where they're like, about
them.
Right.
I mean, I think we should just send them all down to Texas and zap them. Right?
I wish politicians had some sort of device that they wore in their watch. And every time they lied to their constituents, they got fucking zapped. Not enough to hurt them or cause a heart, just enough for like a rubber band snap it, like, no, no, bad dog.
It's good negative reinforcement.
It is.
So yeah, every humanist channel has said those 2 points. Other points that we need to touch on, and some have said, since we're not, I'm going to go through a few more said solutions, partly by the right wing and some by the left here. And I'm going to quickly rock it off as fast as we can. Why yay, why nay? Arm the teachers. Just enough, and they didn't sign up for that. They are the scholar side of the country, not the warrior side of the country. That's why we have cops. Do we not need cops?
Right.
Moving on. Train the children. I heard train the children. I'm like, does that mean with guns Or does that mean just with more drills, shoot, active shooter drills? Either way, we shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't arm children because they're much more impulsive than the grown up children that we have with friends. And I mean, I'm not just saying that to be facetious. I am being very serious. That is how I look at adults. They are grown up children.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and all children are future adults. Yeah.
And all adults are past children. And
Right.
I am honestly hard pressed to say, and I would love someone to do some research on this and make me define my terms or define them your fucking self. I want to know what people think on this. I would say less than 50% of children actually mentally grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Make me define my terms or define them yourself. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, in many areas, I still also feel like I am a child.
um, better secure schools. Christy, you want to take this one?
I think that's important. However, creating a fire disaster or one way in and one way out is not acceptable.
Absolutely
I mean,
but I did hear someone, I can't remember who said it, putting an exit door on every classroom.
I can see that.
I can
That
see
only opens out and not.
That's
And it also, like, I think that there should be a camera at every single exit door as well. I like that. I like that for fires. I like that for a couple different reasons. Yes.
Yeah, there are multiple reasons why that could be good, and I'm sure it doesn't. I mean, I could think of a few right now, but like, you know, if there's a way into every classroom, then any classroom could be at risk, right? But if someone gets inside the building, it's going to be any classroom has a door, right? And you know what? They all have windows.
Mm-hmm.
You could make them all bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to come back to this one.
Mm-hmm.
So spoiler alert, but to knock it down a little bit, I'm going to say, don't we have a large portion of the country who wants to see public schools eliminated, go down the drain,
Oh, I saw that.
defunded? I didn't. I just have been paying attention. Um, why would we want to put more money in making schools safer if you're trying to defund them anyways, and you don't want real things taught in them half the time? That's that seems like a non sequitur. So I have a problem with it because it really doesn't make sense if we have half the country trying to flush schools down the drain. Why put more money into building them up? I will come back to it.
Well, hold on. These are the groomers and the people indoctrinating our kids, but you want to arm them all. Where?
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. There's not logic. I don't know why I asked that. Never mind.
The other ones, thoughts and prayers.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. That's my answer to that.
That one, to offer it as a solution is one of the most insulting things I think you can do. Because the way I look at it, I mean, you have to look at that. So, okay, I'm I'm gonna pair these two to just get them both out of the way because it takes the same argument. I don't want to rehash it. Thoughts and prayers, and also um, um, because we are not teaching God in school anymore. That we just need to return to God in this country.
When did we teach God in school? Ask
Right.
them that. Because
That's
there are historical times. However, I'm sure the person telling you that wasn't in school when that happened, unless they went to a private school. So
right.
that's not it. And video games. I heard video games again this week.
Yeah.
My eyes couldn't have rolled further around in my brain.
So the return to God and the thoughts and prayers is probably the the absolute worst and most insulting to not even atheists, just the most insulting to people who were there. Because if you think for a second, because most of the people that live in Uvalde go to the same church. If you didn't know that, um, they are they're Christian, they're faithful, and you better believe they were praying.
Right.
You better believe they were, and some of those kids probably were too. So to
I'm
say that that's your solution, that's incredibly insulting. Um, and there's so much to unpack there.
Right.
And it's just it's it's needlessly um easy to beat. like a dead horse.
It's the same thing as saying my heart goes out to you, but
no, so the next thing on my list was just thoughts. And that's part of it.
THOTS.
That's the only thing, right? I mean, if you want to have thoughts and prayers as part of the solution, that's cool, that's fine. But to just say it alone, like, yeah, we need people to think, and we need like what we're doing tonight is we're sharing our thoughts, we're sharing also what happened, and we're trying to actually give solutions or just ideas because we in this community that we built, we have almost 100 people who watch these videos, but we share these ideas and we talk to people outside of this live stream, and we try to bring people to better solutions and just better conversations on these topics. Um, but it really grinds my gears when it comes to things like this because
Yokes my yodel.
yeah, because it's so self-defeating, that argument is, when you say we need to return to God or thoughts and prayers are what's going to help in these times, again as a solution. That is saying that the, those kids didn't pray hard enough.
Right.
It's a self-defeating argument, and that's what makes it insulting.
I agree.
Or those parents did.
By asking someone, what can I do to help? And then putting into action things to help. And at the same time, like, thank you for letting me help today. You'll be in my prayers tonight. That's actually beautiful. I mean, it really is. Not only did you put in actions, but I will also be thinking about you later, is what that amounts to,
Yeah.
So, but I'll be thinking about you and talking to my imaginary friend is unacceptable.
Right. It's yeah, and I mean, usually like in stuff like this, it's at best it doesn't mean anything. At worst, and very easily, it is offensive. And again, not only to people who don't believe or believe in something else, right? Um, also to believers who were praying at the time, because I know that Mia's parents, like, I remember her mom saying that, like, but I don't know if I can say that we're blessed because this is the second time, and like she brought it up again, maybe out of habit, maybe not. But I mean, it is hard to see something spiritual in times like those,
Right.
uh, when those moments are so real.
Well,
Um,
for the faithful, they are begging to their God, why did you do this to me? Why did you take her from me? Because in their eyes, and that's heartbreaking.
when you see a world through that lens, that's it's more than easy to see why people see it that way. I mean, it's fine to see
Right.
it that way. That's just that lens is there in their eyes. That's how they see the world. But again, to offer it as a solution is what ticks me off, and that's why. Um, Next, video games. Um,
Ugh.
the reason it's funny um, is not because it just sounds ridiculous, because honestly, it doesn't. It doesn't sound ridiculous. And I think in some cases, um, um, much fewer than guns, as we see in studies in other countries. Um, it's not the case, but in some cases, it is, just because some people get detached from reality a little more than others, and they want to see it more in reality than others, right? You can see it when the boy, oh shoot, I can't remember where it was anymore. Um, the boy who started the active shooting after being called into the office just like a couple
Right.
months ago. He was drawing um, violent art in the classroom, like showing himself shooting his classmates. I mean, if you're gonna say video games, you should really narrow. I'm sorry, not narrow, widen it to art, violent art, because it's a way of expression, right? And sometimes to express or to experience in a way, because art and video games included can be that.
Oh yeah, therapeutic for sure.
You live a fantasy, even if it's terrifying and dark. So I I I did want to give it credit where it's due, but it's shown in metrics like this graph I showed earlier. It's not a real factor. It's not such a contributing factor that you need to make policy on it. But I mean, parents should be aware of when some kids enjoy things too much,
Mm.
kind of like any other addiction. Some things need to be stayed away from. Guns are included there. But anyways, again, moving on. Policy changes.
Mm.
Changes. Sorry, I'm getting stuffy. Um, Background checks, gun bans, and red flag laws.
Mm.
Christy, do you have any that you want to kick off of that list right away, or do they all sound good?
I'm I want the most comprehensive universal check. There have been so many violent crimes committed by people who bought their guns legally because when they went to go buy their gun in, say, Mississippi or just name a state, that gun owner and that shop is required by the laws there to check statewide to make sure this person is legal to buy a gun in that state. What they don't do is check other states.
Ah,
What they don't do is check a federal database because it doesn't exist. And what they don't do is check, have they traveled and bought a gun somewhere else? Or have they traveled and committed crimes somewhere else? I want that comprehensive universal check to know who we are giving a tool. A gun is a tool. We're giving a tool that sole purpose is to stop a human by, devastation to the human body, to eliminate human life if need be. So I think we should know who this person is. And there are statistics on how many crimes this type of universal background check would prevent. And it's staggering. Many times, like Illinois and Iowa, they're right here, just like Florida and, the states above it. And we touch more than one. Those towns that sell guns do not even check 5 miles down the road into the next state because they're not required to check in the next state. And people travel back and forth all day long. They probably work over here and come over here back to live. And if they just would have checked Georgia or Mississippi or Louisiana, they would have known the person trying to buy this assault weapon has committed violence before and shouldn't be allowed to have one. It's so common sense. Like it's common sense laws, except for I want very comprehensive. And I think that's not asking a lot. Every parent who lost a child, every person who lost a family member in Buffalo just because they were Black would agree that they would have preferred that person. I don't know. Now, hindsight 2020, we know that someone like that going through these things shouldn't have access to that weapon. Not saying never. What if they get help? That is a possibility. If Republicans want to do universal health care for mental illness, many of these people could get the help they need and be responsible members of society who maybe even could own a gun. But we'll never know, because apparently you can just go in and buy an assault rifle and 1,000 rounds of ammunition on your 18th birthday and walk out and plan to murder a whole bunch of people the next day and carry it out, maybe even live stream it.
Yeah. I would like to point out that Bill Burr, actor and comedian, he put forth the idea, which I've heard before, of licensing people to get a gun, right? And at least that, but like having classes, right? So everyone,
right, just like your driver's license.
Yeah. So so everyone can get like a fucking 22, right?
And I think that you should have to renew it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a cosmetology license. Well, every 2 years I have to take education because things change. Just like if you're owning a weapon that can eliminate life, I'm sure it would make sense to have, not every 2 years, obviously, but maybe once a decade. A booklet comes, like mine comes in the mail. It has between 16 and 27 hours of education. And if you can't pass the test at the end, something's wrong with you, because it's an open book test. So, maybe a 3-hour, I'm okay with that. That is not infringing on anyone's rights.
Right. No, and I think that having that paired with red flag laws would probably be the best that we could actually ever hope for in this country. I think that gun bans aren't going to happen, at least not in my lifetime.
Unless we get all of our Latinx, Muslim, and Black brothers and sisters to take up arms and start marching in the streets with them, we will have gun regulation yesterday. I'm just saying, if we want it done, peacefully protest with your loaded AKs. See what happens.
Yeah. Do it at an NRA convention where you're not allowed to have guns.
Oh, not only just guns. Google the list of items not allowed. No, the list of items banned at the NRA convention.
And if we did anything with these kind of laws, do you think that they should be retroactive?
Yeah, I do think they should be the ones that would stop the selling of a specific type of weapon, definitely, but not punitively or authoritarian. The buyback, and there should also be an option. I don't want to do a buyback. I'd rather take this education.
Well,
That would be great.
I got to push back on you here a little bit, because let's say we did the gun licensing. Now, everyone who already has these guns that are of a higher class of license, if you're making it retroactive and they don't pass the test, then you
Then
would
they lose. Yeah, then
huh?
they would lose that right. The same as a driver's license or a cosmetology license. Absolutely.
That is authoritarian, right?
No, if I don't pass my license, if I don't pass my test, I don't get to do people's hair anymore. That's not authoritarian.
But if you don't take a test, like you lose your license, but they don't come and take your car.
No, but they take my passion away. I'm not legally allowed to do it anymore. I can't use my license to buy professional things. I can't go to the shows. I can't be a part of the industry. Yeah. So
So
get your shit together and get your education on.
so in practice, then, um, as if you and I are congressmen,
Okay.
uh, because we're both plural. um, so if someone doesn't pass this hypothetical um,
Right.
licensing test, um, you'll allow them to keep their guns, but they're not allowed to use them.
No, I don't. I don't think that I mean, there would be many people who are going to do it anyway. So I'm not talking about them. There will have to be laws written that would take care of that. Those eliminated. The bad actors eliminated. Everyone else, yeah, you didn't pass this time. We're going to have to, have them. However, you can take it again. You can take it as many times as you want. And when you do, this will be yours. If at some point you say, I'm not going to take it anymore, I'm over it, this it's done. It's in writing. This is not part of yours. Just like if I was an electrician and didn't pass my test, I couldn't go into people's houses and work on electrical. If I was a plumber and didn't pass, I couldn't anymore do these things. I do
So,
think that it should be like that.
so to be clear, and I'm pushing you like a politician,
No, it's
like
fine.
um, um, so to be clear, if they don't pass, you would have written in the law at least. Not saying that you personally, you could have do it like the police, right?
Christy's
Um,
coming to take your guns.
so have them confiscate the weapons that they're not licensed to.
Right.
So we're
Right.
licensing to have the guns, not just use them. Is that
Right.
your stance?
Right. I mean, you can have a car, but if you don't have a license to drive it, what's the point?
So I think right now, at least in this hypothetical, I'm taking the not the opposite. I'm taking a different stance from you, and I'm saying, no, um, you can absolutely um, um, keep your vehicle. You can absolutely keep your AR-15. If we catch you out using it, I mean, you'll be
I mean,
arrested.
yeah, you can't buy ammo for it. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to do. However, I do think that it would be okay to add a caveat to that. Say you can't, uh, laws passed that you can't own these assault rifles at home. I do think it is okay to have locations, shooting ranges, things like that, that other countries do have, where that type of gun is stored there. You have your ID, you come in, they verified you, your locker's open, you ammo, you go, there's courses you can go through, there's different sports you can get into, there's gun ranges, and when you leave, your gun also goes away there. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
In the previous show, I've put forth the idea, which I hadn't heard before, of like making like a public munitions place. Like,
I'm 100% down. That would
yeah,
be a well-regulated militia in training.
Yeah, yeah. And some people would probably say, why you want to put all the weapons in one place? Who's going to guard them? And we could
Well,
have that kind
obviously, it would be guarded. I mean, what? That we can't have the Pentagon, who's going to guard it? We can't have the
of
White House, who's going to guard it? Come on, people.
right, right?
Right.
But I see issues with that. But that's neither here or there. So,
Yeah, my dad said they can ban voting in many areas and many books, but never guns.
um,
Hey, information is dangerous. The more people know, the more they will not put up with. Give them a gun, they'll be fine.
so
America.
I like this back and forth that Christy and I are having because I feel like this is what we need to hear on C-SPAN. Um, this is the kind of conversation that should be being had. Like, okay, if we're gonna do some kind of gun ban or licensing or whatever, it has to boil down to what Christy and I are talking about. This has to be one of the options on the table that two congressmen or men or women or parties or committees are arguing about is, okay, we're doing this licensing thing.
Mhm.
Uh, so if they don't pass, are we taking their guns away like they feared Obama, or are we saying you can keep them? How do we get them back? Right? Is it a buyback?
A buyback, 100%.
Right?
Yes,
That's
buybacks.
is it
When you look at the data, the data is positive.
right?
So
Do
I
we
can't fight
do,
it.
do we put it in the law that by no means do we enter someone's house to take their guns away, but if
Well,
we see breaking
right,
the law, like
right.
they're pulling their van out of the garage to take it on a joyride, well then you're under arrest. We're gonna have to impound your vehicle because you don't have a means to drive it home because you're not
Right.
licensed, right?
Yes.
You
I
could do
think it
something.
should be like
You
that.
could have
Yes.
you could have your wife who's licensed come pick your gun up for you and take it
Right.
back. He
Just
is
like
licensed,
a vehicle. Hmm.
but
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna
like it.
have you fine. So
I mean,
I like
with a vehicle, it has to have working lights. It has to have a windshield that's not cracked. It has to have blinkers. You have to have a seatbelt. There's all these things. They're regulations,
and you have to have a licensed user.
right? Which means you have to train in it or another vehicle to
Gun,
attain that license.
guns are,
It's the same. You should have to show that you know how to use one safely. Yes.
yeah, guns
I
are
think
registered.
not only should you have to prove that you can use it, but that should come at the end of education. You know, hey, you want this gun? This is the class for this type of gun to get this license. You want this type? This is the class you have to take. These are the hours. These are every 10 years, you'll have to do this many hours. Each type, if you want an assault rifle, join the military.
No, don't.
Join an elite, there's
Just
many groups. There's so many options to join that you would be issued that type of gun. Standing in your front yard at a barbecue is not one of them. Although in your front yard, I don't have a problem with it. You just look a little loony.
yeah. So um I have very little hope.
I
I had
know. I know.
I had press earlier this week um that anything like this is gonna happen. Um but but what I do think
But
and what I am in more favor of now than I have been is what I said I'd go back to. Better secure schools. Um, I'm in favor, on the record, of a few people watching. Um, I'm on record and willing to say that securing schools probably needs to be our number one priority. Really kind of make them a fortress. All schools, pour more federal funding into it. I think we should absolutely first look at our defense spending and put it towards our public schools.
we
Um,
actually have a big pot of money right now as a nation that didn't get spent for COVID. And there is nothing specifically earmarking it as a total going towards anything. I think for me, it would be like, why wouldn't we use it for a buyback? Just an immediate one on the most dangerous weapons. There are a lot of people that have them that go, you know what, I could really use that money, and I'm not going to get that money from anywhere else that I sell it. That would go towards something good. And I have these other guns. We would get a lot immediately, and people would get money in return. People need that right now. That's what I would like it. But yeah.
Idea here. But I was just thinking in my head here.
Well, that's a good thing, because, you know, how do you think somewhere else?
Right. How many schools are in the United States as of 2020? There are 130,930 recorded number of pre through K. I'm sorry, not pre. K through 12 schools in the United States of America. This means on average, there are 2,618 schools per state. Why I am doing this is, I'll tell you why here in a second. Active duty military numbers are in the U.S. Total number of active duty that we have in the U.S. are almost 1.5 million. It's 1,417,000
Wow.
370. And reserve and guard, we have 857,261. So here's my proposal, because I became president yesterday, and I'm now the commander in chief. We have nearly 5 times the amount of reserve National Guard members that we do schools. I would completely subvert them or military, 1 or 2 of them to every single school in the country, because that's defense. And I would pull about, I would pull at least half of all of our military spending, which would have to pull us out of at least half of the conflicts that we are in around the world, like Somalia, Yemen, Ukraine, even. Somewhere we'd have to make some choices. We'd have to stop supporting Israel, is what I would say.
Yeah, let's do that yesterday.
Saudi Arabia,
Azerbaijan, yeah, yeah.
What we need to do is protect ourselves from domestic terrorism. And the first thing that we have to defend and build up, because this is the Department of Defense, this is our military here, and this is defense spending, is our
offense,
our schools.
That is. I do want to.
I would see our president. If I was president, that would be the first thing. I would fucking shock everyone, right? And I mean, it sucks. It's not the kind of look digging moats around schools and college campuses, but that's that part's a joke. I wouldn't waste money on a moat.
Right.
Not in every case, but if they want to do that, that'd probably actually look pretty cool.
And you know how many kids would drown in the moat? Like, in our live chat, Brian Stevens, I have firearms, and in 60 plus years have never once needed them for anything but recreation. I would give them all up to save one kid. Also, I think a majority of gun owners would feel the same if actually faced with that choice. And as we know, many of the more conservative minded do agree with these policy choices want someone they know or it affects their life personally. And that's the, the disconnect. And I believe Brian's right. I think that, if it was, this is your grandbaby, your daughter, your cousin, your niece, and all we need is you to not have any assault rifles. You can have your personal protection. And if you want these assault ones, here's the routes to go through them. They would have no problem to save that little face they love, to save the woman that they love. It's just when you say the government or the liberals are coming to take your guns, they have a huge problem. And why wouldn't they? I don't want the conservatives coming for my bodily autonomy. And that's actually happening. I do want to stress to people who may be hearing this thinking they're terrified that their Second Amendment might be taken away from you. You guys, the Second Amendment is a part of our Constitution. No politician can come in and just take it away from you. We would have to hold a constitutional convention. It takes 34 of the 50 states to come into agreement in order to agree upon having this constitutional convention. Once we agree on when we're going to have it, then it has to be had. And it's days and days, if not weeks, of discussing the things we want to change about our Constitution. And then referendums and voting happens before this happens. It just can't be taken away like the women's bodily autonomy can, because that's not written or codified into our law. It's just precedent that has been held up. And as we know, any Supreme Court justice with enough political clout and people behind him can change precedents. It's only precedents until it's not. That's why it's so important to be written into law. So when I hear someone obviously ignorant, and I do not mean ignorant in any way that is talking down. I just mean, I'm ignorant when it comes to black holes. I just am not educated enough on them. String theory, I'm ignorant of. You are ignorant of our constitutional rights, of the Constitution. If you come to me and talk about anyone's coming to take your guns, or especially the guns, we could talk about that. Certain guns can come and go. Your Second Amendment right to protect yourself with protection of a handgun or a shotgun or all those things is our Constitution. All we can do is regulate and change the type of things, but the Second Amendment isn't going anywhere. Our First Amendment isn't going anywhere. However, that being said, our Constitution stands on our democracy, and democracies in large are very fragile. And if we do not work for it, as the forebearers and their descendants and their descendants and the people that came before us have or didn't do, we can lose our democracy. And here's the thing: if you as a citizen do not want to be involved, do not want to pay attention, do not want to educate yourself and make sure the information you're getting is actual information, someone else is gonna. That's how it works. If we don't, other people will. And who those people are should concern you.
All right. Well, it is almost 1 a.m. where
Yes.
Christy and I are, and not to have the whole day ahead of them yet. So at this point, I would like to thank you all again so much for joining us this Friday night, now Saturday morning. And please like and share the link for this one. I think we did a good job, Christy.
Yeah, I do too. And also, I just mentioned Mr. Brian Stevens, thanks for coming by. And Beach, you guys were great. It was a much needed and very difficult topic. And I did input my input or an opinion as Mac did too. But I really hope that you know, form your own opinion and listen to just the facts and don't take our word for it. Look them up. I gave you dates, I gave you people, and I gave you the quickest, even though it seemed a little longer, history of it. There's so much more. Educate yourself on it, educate your children on it, educate your friends on it. And you know, I love you guys. And if we don't do it, someone will. And stay humanist for godless sakes.